Welcome back to the White Gray Black Weekly Manga Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk all about your favorite ongoing Japanese manga. My name is Bruce. I am the proprietor of the White Gray Black YouTube channel. With me again this week is Gautam.
Hello, hello.
This week we're going to talk about Tachiyomi and its potential legal issues with the manhwa publisher Kakao Entertainment. Probably dig in and have a little bit of a conversation about some Fanscans stuff. We'll see. There's multiple feelings here, so we'll see if we can touch on some of those. We're also going to chat about some Weekly Shonen Jump stuff today. Akane had a great chapter, Mashle's bonus chapter came out, and SpyXFamily continues to be great. So stick around for all that and more manga news coming right up. All right, let's start having a dangerous conversation about fan translations, unlicensed translations, publications, aggregators, and all that stuff. This is going to be our background image as we do it. So the reason we are having this conversation is there is a manga app called Tachiyomi. What this app does is you can add certain aggregator sites to it, which then allows you to use Tachiyomi as a reader to read that manga. I believe you can also download direct manga to read, or download just image sets. I think you can, there might even be a way to use like Imager or something like that to read manga on here. I'm not totally sure. What happened is Kakao Entertainment, which is a manhwa publisher, went after Tachiyomi and their developers for essentially to say, hey, you're breaking the law, you're doing stuff wrong, you know, we have whatever legal precedent we think we have against you. You need to, I believe the initial request was you need to remove, you know, any of our published manga, or sorry, any of their published manhwa. And the main thing was that easily the largest and best aggregator. It's not even really an aggregator. It is actually a place that directly posts fan translations. MangaDex was included in this, and MangaDex is where I would say the majority of people who read consistent fan translations read manga from MangaDex pretty often, if not, you know, solely from there. So MangaDex getting removed from Tachiyomi was a big deal. Got, you know, certain corners of the internet that Gautam and I frequent, talking and chatting and wondering why it's happening, and talking about it. After that, apparently, what happened is that Kakao Entertainment was not satisfied with this, and they are either directly bringing legal action against Tachiyomi or they're threatening to. Tachiyomi developers have a Discord server which was made private at the announcement of this and was closed off completely. I believe that the litigation was aimed directly at the sort of owners, developers of Tachiyomi. Now, again, to make clear, Tachiyomi is an application where you can go essentially and add different other sites and then use Tachiyomi as a reader to read from other sites that host directly. Right? Tachiyomi does not host any manga directly. It doesn't do that. You can use the app to save manga sort of inside and link to Tachiyomi, but it's basically purely a reader. It isn't even really an aggregator, because an aggregator generally is like a rehosting site. Will take hosted media like manga, re-upload it and have it there so that it's in a central location. So let's talk about it, Gautam. How are you feeling? Say something about it.
Sure, it's just greed. It's just greed. Greed with kind of like they're donning the armor of we legally own these licenses, so we get to push people around.
Which they do. I will not argue that they own those licenses. They have control of it. They deserve to profit from people reading it. But,
yeah. So let me go into it a little bit. Basically, here's how I feel about it, right? They do own the licenses, but like you said, this is not an aggregator. This is just a reader. This is this is like if you're a publisher or if you're a writer and you notice another book has plagiarized your work, it's like suing Kindle for that other book plagiarizing your work.
In the conversations I've had,
makes no sense.
Google does the same thing Tachiyomi does, right? If you want to go into an app, right? I can go into Google Chrome, an application. I can then search for manga that exists hosted on another site, and then I can use Google Chrome to read that manga. So Google Chrome and Tachiyomi are performing the same duty in this sense, and this Kakao Entertainment is going after Tachiyomi. And let me tell you, they're not going after Google for obvious reasons, right? This is a little guy, and I would still bet you money. As many people do use Tachiyomi, and I do think it's fairly popular. I see it recommended a lot. It got recommended to me. I've used it for, maybe longer than that, maybe 4 years now, 3 or 4 years. Still probably read more manga using Google Chrome. I think a lot of people do, and Google Chrome is not facing any legal action from this. They're performing the same action, they're performing the same duty. That's my big issue with this, is that Tachiyomi is not the people that Kakao Entertainment should be going after. If they wanted to go after the hosting sites, the aggregators, the actual people who are, ripping scans of their manhwa and, posting those for free online, I understand the legality of that, and those are the people who they should be going after. But I guess it's easier to just take a little public app that has, lots of readers and go after that instead. I don't know. You were right in that this is, I don't even necessarily say this is greed. It is related to greed. This is lack of knowledge around the Western audience and lack of knowledge and just, I don't know.
This is just greed. I just I don't see it as anything else, because this is they are going after Tachiyomi for the reasons we mentioned, but you can see from their statement that they stated that these are licensed properties and support the authors, don't pirate. Okay, fair. Like if you take down sites that are hosting your serialized works, I can't blame you for that. That's fine. I mean, that's within your right to do. The fact is that they're going after Tachiyomi because they are within arm's reach. Right. They can't go after Google. That's insane. And if they go after the sites taking their work, the sites will just create a new site.
It doesn't work, right? I mean, historically what we've seen is that, again, because of these aggregators and stuff like that, a fan translation, once it's out there, is not in one single place. It is in 7 or 8 places pretty quickly. So yeah, I think this is also a useless thing. Literally, again, Tachiyomi is not, I can still go and read all of their manhwa wherever I want to on the site that Tachiyomi would have been pulling it from. I just can't do it inside Tachiyomi now, which makes it more inconvenient, does not fix the problem. They are not going after the root of the problem here. And the root of the problem, which I think we can maybe move the conversation on now to talk about, is what our wonderful Master Gaben here is talking about. Piracy is almost always a service problem. And I agree with the statement when it comes to pirated manga, fan-translated manga. I wish I didn't have to read them.
As someone who has a perspective on manhwa translation, official translation is just behind. It's just not as good. Mm-hmm. Even, and I'm not
for manhwa specifically, because I think manga translation has, especially in the past 2 or 3 years, it's caught up. But yeah, manhwa is way far behind translation.
Yeah, so even the officials, like, I'm not really picky. I used to read back in the day when everything was shit.
I remember when you first got me into manga 5 or 6 years ago, and we would talk a lot. I would be like, man, some of these translations are rough. Like, we would complain about it, weekly, of like, it came out, but that was not a good translation. I got it and liked it, but I didn't. And we hardly ever have those conversations now. All the translations, especially official, are really, really good now for manga.
Webtoon translations are generally just pretty awful. And it's like the fan sites, which I won't name, just do because who knows like who's listening to anyone? People are so fucking litigative nowadays, so I won't say shit. But fan sites are just better in every way, and they're faster. They're up to date. These people get paid jack shit, and they do it better out of passion than the official translations. So I suppose what I'm saying is if you want people to read on your site, then do a good job. Put in more than the bare minimum level of effort.
Yeah, I mean you called out exactly two of the big things that I would strike as is a service problem, which is they're faster and they're higher quality. And that's part of the service that you're providing when you translate a foreign media, right? If you translate a foreign media and it's slow, because I mean, this is even something that we've complained about on the podcast before, right? Which is like, for instance, we'll talk a little bit about this later because it shows up in the news, but Kindergarten Wars, right? Kindergarten Wars started 2 years ago. Right at maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. It came out, some fan translator, grabbed chapter 1. People said, this is really funny. Fan translation kept it up for maybe 20-ish chapters in that range. Kindergarten Wars caught on in Japan around the time Volume 1 came out, I would say. And that also meant that Viz and Manga Plus and these official Western publishing services caught on and said, hey, we should translate this. They grabbed it. They did 3 chapters a week for a couple months. They caught up. And pretty much as soon as the Western publisher grabbed it, the fan translations for it dropped. Because, and to be honest, for official, well-translated, well-timed released manga, there's not a whole lot of fan translations out there for series like that, right? For instance, all the new stuff from the last 2 or 3 years from Weekly Shonen Jump, right? There's not a fan translation of Green Green Greens or of, Worry Dragon or something like that, because those were officially published 3 or 4 days after they came out in Japan by someone that Viz or whoever had paid money to do it, and they're good translations, and they are timely. They aren't exactly at the same time, which is fine because you need time to translate it after it comes out, but they're timely. The only things that have really survived are things that people are too excited to wait for, which generally the big 3 that I see that are still fan translated from Weekly Shonen Jump are One Piece, of course, Jujutsu Kaisen, and My Hero Academia. There might be a couple others that survive, but generally everything from Viz and stuff are still around. But yeah, I mean, that's too many words to tie it all back to. It's a service problem, and if these manga publishers really want to capture money from the West, they could spend all this money that they paid to pay lawyers to try to reach across the Pacific Ocean and sue some guys who live who knows where, right?
They're not going to sue anyone. They're just making threats.
It was I just looked it up real quick. It was actually a DMCA, so a copyright strike takedown is what they issued Tachiyomi, which is incorrect. And I don't think it would hold up in the court of law. I'm not a lawyer, NAL, but yeah, kind of insane.
Hey, they won't even. They're not even willing to do the bare minimum to make the works that their artists and authors make readable to the American public or the Western audience in general. Yeah. So they're sure as hell not going to spend a dime on a lawyer. I think this is all just bravado and threats that Tachiyomi has to take seriously for some reason.
They have to, because if they did bring any kind of litigation against them, they're fucked, little. Yeah. They're just probably just a bunch of dudes who have other day jobs or girls or whoever, right?
They're fucked. Yeah,
they just have people that have day jobs that developed a reader. So
effectively, I do think that this is all just bravado and show, and it's pointed at the wrong target. So like a retail worker who's getting freaked out at by some random person.
They raised the prices at Walmart, and you're going to yell at the guy checking you out.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what's happening here. So Tachiyomi has to just grit their teeth and say, all right, we hear you, and then move on with their lives. Because doing anything, there is no other answer to this. Yeah. Like,
hopefully you see the rise of a Yomitachi app maybe in the next couple months, something like that. Who knows? But let's something that has sort of come up in my mind while we're talking about this, because we are talking about specifically a Korean manhwa publisher. We could have had this conversation, and I'm sure that we did, in our personal lives between you and I, 5 or 6 years ago about manga. So, do we think? I feel like the Korean manhwa industry, as far as serving Western customers like us over here in the US, I feel like they are just a few years behind where the manga publishers are, right? Because honestly, yeah, like 5 or 6 years ago, we could have said this exact same thing about people taking down what were some of the fan scan sites we've lost in the last 5 or 6 years? We lost, I think, like Black Cat,
Black
White Cat.
Cat. We lost Manga Stream.
Manga
Jiminy's
Stream was a
Box.
huge one. Yeah, Jaimini's box, that was a big one 4 or 5 years ago. I think all of those got hit with similar sort of like some minor threat of legal action, or they broke up or whatever.
I think Helvetica was a popular one. They were doing a lot of huge series. They were great, but I'm not sure if they're still around.
I don't think any of them are still around because they generally broke up. And again, because the manga industry spent time, especially in the last, I would say 3 years, really making a push, mainly Weekly Shonen Jump and Shueisha, right? From Manga Plus and Viz.
That's good. That's
huge
just
push,
it's just a
They've
net
been
positive,
replaced, which is good.
The scanlation industry only exists because there was a demand and it was not being met. And once the demand was met, a lot of people are very willing to just not do it anymore.
Exactly. Very good point.
People do this out of passion. For a lot, there's not really much money to be made, and for many, it's just a deficit, right? For example, Manga Dex is run at a deficit.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
They're not profitable at all. It's just like passion. Yeah. And I respect that, but I think like the Weekly Shonen Jump app is just a great thing.
It works now. Like,
and again, it's so serviceable. Translations are great. Yeah. Like
4 or 5 years ago, that was not true though. 4 or 5 years ago, that app, you would scroll to the bottom, you would get to the second to last or last page of a manga, and it would auto jump you to the first page, and it did that for like 2 years.
That was annoying, but
they
regardless,
fixed it,
right?
And they got it better, right? They made the service better, which has replaced the need for other people to provide that service. So, and I think that's probably the best. That's the great point that you made is that there's a demand for these Korean manhwa. People want to read them over here. There's a huge market. I mean, I know that the Webtoon app is pretty big. I think I have it on my phone somewhere because I used to read. There was a Batman and Family manhwa that was pretty good for a while. I haven't read it in a long time, but and then I'm again not big into manhwa, but I feel like they're big. Last thing I guess I'll say here is that I feel like they are several years behind providing the right kind of service where they don't need to worry about suing the little guy anymore, right? I don't think Shueisha is going after Fanscans very much because the majority of people are, again, like I said, no one's fan scanning Green Greens. No one's fan scanning Akane. No one's fan scanning Undead Unluck because the official translation comes out 2 or 3 days after. It's good. It's a great translation a lot of the times, better than any of the others. So there's no need.
To be fair, they are throwing the Japanese people providing the scans in prison, but it is a pretty illegal thing to do. I get why they would get prison time. It seems insanely harsh to me, but I do understand that this is like a multi-million-dollar industry, and one leak costs Shueisha and Weekly Shonen Jump a ton of money.
Yeah.
But either way, I think putting this scan pirates in jail versus and I feel bad for those scan pirates, but putting them in jail versus whatever the fuck this is like a night and day difference. One has legal precedent, and the other is just flinging shit because you're pissed off. You know, I don't know.
I mean, for sure, if I had heard, if I hear like there's the scan group that does, as I mentioned, One Piece, Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, they're pretty well known, especially if you're into reading One Piece on Wednesdays or Thursdays instead of Sundays, like many people are. If I heard that Shueisha was going after that group, I would not be surprised. And I think that they have every legal precedent to do that. Because they are removing readers directly, and they are removing, you can say, profit directly from the company. So I would totally understand that. Tachiyomi, no, not the same. It's not the same. It is a reader app. Yeah.
You could argue that it supports piracy, but it's not.
But it's all. But that's also saying like Google Chrome supports piracy because you can access pirate sites through Google Chrome, right? Like it's the same. It's kind of the same.
You can make that argument, but Google Chrome supports everything, including piracy.
Yeah.
Whereas this is kind of built specifically for piracy. this is the devil's advocate in me. I still don't.
Well,
think,
you can't. I mean, so Tachiyomi does have. I mean, you can go and read, I believe, like official free chapters from Viz and Manga Plus in Tachiyomi.
I'm just saying I get why they were targeted. Even though I think it's completely unethical and fucked up, I get why they got punched in the arm for this one.
It's disappointing because they have a really, really good reader. Like I said, I've used this for years on mobile for reading, and I think it's very good. So yeah, anything else we want to say here? It's disappointing. My big hope is that the manhwa industry moves faster and gets to where the manga industry is now in the West, where we have good apps for the large publishers, pretty close publication dates, right? I'm talking at or sub 1 week is generally what we're looking at here in the West, right? I think Kodansha's delays, are like a week or two, but the K-manga
it'll happen. I just think it'll be slow, maybe like 5 years or something.
Yeah, and that's I think the most disappointing thing is that because manga is already there, it's weird that manhwa is years behind, and I wish it wasn't. I wish that they would pay more attention to what the manga publishers are doing in the West and how they're making money off us, and just someone's already done it. Like
these companies are all just these companies leave money on the table. They're also risk averse.
That's true.
The manga industry is generating so much fucking revenue, and it took this long to get to where we are. Right? Like this is a long time. This is Jump Plus is awesome, but goddamn, it should have been a thing a while ago.
I mean, because for sure the timing of it is disappointing because, like we mentioned, Kindergarten Wars. I'll use that as an example. It got big in the West over here through Fanscans initially. They missed 4 or 5 months, maybe more, of being able to capture an audience immediately who would be like, oh man, I really like Kindergarten Wars, or I had Kindergarten Wars suggested to me, but I'm far behind, so I need to pay the very cheap $2, or maybe it's $2.99 now, I don't remember, $2 or $3 that it is to read Viz or read Manga Plus to catch up on that. And they just missed, months of revenue they could have gotten if they had just said everything that, Shueisha publishes or whatever, we're gonna translate it and publish it on one of our sites. That's the weird, like you're talking about, that's the weird sort of mismatch. Like, why don't they just publish it? Like one of the most recent ones, which I think we talked about maybe a month and a half ago, was Bano, right? Bano is this series about a vampire playing shogi. It was getting a lot of hype in Japan, this is published by Shueisha. I believe this is a Jump Plus series. They were just not publishing it over here. They just decided that they weren't going to send it to the West. Maybe this is a decision on Viz or somebody else. I don't know. But fans started translating it, and then I believe we've gotten it now in Jump Plus. But it's like, 2 months late or 3 months late. Like, you've missed an opportunity to capture more people reading, to capture more people into your environment, into Viz and Manga Plus, or K-Manga, or whichever reader you want to talk about, Square Enix. It's so disappointing because, again, piracy is a service problem. And if the services are good, there's no reason to go to piracy. And I really wish that the services were good here, and they're not, especially for manga.
Yeah. You know what? I guess the takeaway is that if you can't make a good product, just strong arm your competition with legal jiu-jitsu into making a worse product.
Send DMCA takedowns to the wrong people, and don't fix the problem. Cool.
Just threaten.
Anything else on this? Let's talk about some manga if we're good to go.
Let's go for it.
Let's talk about Akane Banashi. This is chapter 93. Man, really good stuff happening in this series. I really like the.
I didn't get to read this one yet, but
okay.
You speak on it. I didn't get to read this or our main topic.
Gotcha. Okay. Well,
I thought it would be Chainsaw Man.
So, I mean, we can talk generally about sort of where Akane is in this arc.
You can go into detail. Come on.
Well, but I mean, that's kind of more interesting than just specifically what happens in this chapter, although this chapter is a good one.
Fair enough.
I like Akane Banashi because it likes to... A story isn't really a story without conflict and drama. Even slice of lives have very minor dramas, right? Like, I I left my money at home, or I need to wash the car, right? Even a very minor conflict like that is what drives a story. So Akane I like because the conflict and the stakes are always present and important and character driven, which I think is the big thing. Akane here in this arc has been talking to this gambler guy, and she is sort of wondering how could she be better, because that's kind of always her drive. And this guy is going to present her with a challenge going forward, which seems like a limiting factor. But I think it's gonna be interesting. So in this chapter, she's, he says, you're only using half your ability, and she's excited, says like, I can be twice as good as I am now. I've got so much potential. It's so good, but he presents her with this challenge, which is for 2 months until she does this debut with this other Rakugo, she's not allowed to use Edo dialect. And that's a big deal for Rakugo, because Rakugo is performed like almost entirely in Edo dialect, which, from what I understand from a little bit of research, is it's just sort of like an older way of speaking. Kind of, maybe you could compare it to doing like performing Shakespeare without using these and thous and thuses. Although that I think is a little bit not quite the way it works. But she kind of has a crisis of like, wait, Rakugo is very, very cornered and built off this Edo dialect. So it's kind of like saying like, hey, you're going to play your fighting games and you can't use your left hand, or you can't use your fight stick or whatever. Taking away something that's very core to the performance, and saying she can't use it. Presenting her with a challenge in order to make her grow, which I think is exceptional storytelling. I love Akane for doing this. There's some really fun panels here. I love where she's trying to... and it doesn't, this is a hard one because it doesn't translate super well into English, because there's not a good comparison like I mentioned, but she has like, oh, let's take this scene, for example. And the original line, is like, if I go back without repaying you, I'll never hear the end of it from the other Tanuki, which would be sort of the older Edo style dialect. And she's trying to update it, and she says like, oh, would it be more like this? She's like, OMG, if I leave now, I'm like so screwed. So she's trying to use sort of a, more sort of old style speaking and update it to modern language is kind of the challenge here. Or she goes, or should I take it further? She says, bruh Lamau, I'm so getting canceled. The translation here is by Stephen Paul, who is by far, in my opinion, the greatest translator I have ever read. He translates One Piece. He translates Akane Banashi. He historically... Speaking of fan translations, I guess I'll call him out. He translated the version of Monster that I read. He translated Pluto. He translated 20th Century Boys, a lot of it, maybe not all of it. But he's fantastic. He's so good. He's just a great writer, I think, in addition to being a good translator. His style is amazing. He's great. And this is stuff that's really hard to translate. And he has it make total sense, right? He has like a little bit of a stiff sentence. He makes it a little bit more casual. He makes it sort of, what are the kids called nowadays? Gen Z? Zoomers? He makes it kind of Zoomer casual after that. But anyways, yeah. Akane goes and she goes to karaoke with her friends where she sings like an older, like a 1950s song. Like, oh, she's singing oldies. It's like a 40-year-old song. And then at the end, we get a little bit of drama with these two Rakugo talking about the mass expulsion, the firing of Akane's father, for example. And there was some kind of unfinished story from the old Shiguma master. So again, the drama, the stakes in Akane are great as always. I love this. This chapter I thought was, speaking, I guess, maybe this episode is about translations.
Yeah.
Again,
kind of coincidentally.
It's such I didn't even think about it when I threw it together. I was just so impressed with the whole entirety of this Akane chapter, but a lot of that really goes into how good this translation is by Stephen Paul for sure. So, calling out these great translations. Akane is great. I mean, the whole gambler guy is a great character. I can't remember his name because there's so many names, but it's fun.
Yeah, good series. Alrighty.
Cool. Why don't you tell me
next
about Mashle, Magic and Muscles special one-shot extra chapter?
Yeah, sure.
I read through this one. I grabbed the pictures. It was pretty fun. So
Yeah, it was a good time. This is after the series has ended, so spoilers here. Mash saves the world. Of course, he still has no magic, but he's able to lift, which is all that's important, really.
Of course, yeah.
But this is the principal, basically the Dumbledore of this world's grandchild, and he is
Gotcha.
pretty incompetent when it comes to magic. Unlike his grandfather, he can
only make paper clips, or like he makes like I
like
have one right here.
clothesline clips.
Yeah, like clothespins or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's kind of disheartened, but he's taking a tour of the school, kind of to inspire himself to be better at magic. He runs into Mash kind of instantly, who's doing
what is he called?
Whatever this
I can't recall. It's called like dragon lifts or something like that. He had a name for him that I didn't grab.
Yeah, he's doing a bunch of those, and the kid's like automatically
it's like this is
pegs him as a weirdo, and the kid is just right. He is a weirdo.
Everyone's a weirdo in this series, which is why it's
great. Yeah, and then he sees all of Mash's friends doing just insanely weird things. I would say this series is probably one that has like some of the weirdest fucking characters. And I love it. They're all endearing, but just insanely odd in that I don't think any of them are fully like sane. But yeah, so the friends are all just fucking around with each other, and he's just observing in awe that people are capable of acting this way. And they basically they're doing like school examinations, and Lance, which is Mash's quote unquote rival, Mash has no rivals really, is showing his like awesome magic off, like lifting the boulder and all that stuff. And then it's Mash's turn, and this is always the best part, where he figures a workaround on how to do magic without
the magic thing with his muscles. Yep,
with his muscles.
It's the whole. It's the only joke of the series, but I feel like it doesn't get old. I've only read
it never
20 or 30 chapters. It is always fun. So
it's always funny and creative. Like the author always ends up doing it in a way that I don't expect. Yeah. So Mash's solution is to grip his legs around the top of the boulder and flap his hands to make it levitate. And he keeps the teacher's teaching for how to do this with magic in mind, and keeps the center of the object in balance. Which makes no sense because he's flapping his hands, but
yeah, it doesn't.
What? Hell yeah. Then the second thing is that they're all taming a griffin. And the griffin hates it when you look it in the eye because it has an ego. But if you don't look it in the eye, it thinks you're weak. So it bullies you. So Mash it does a weird thing by looking it in the eye, but also like dodging all of its attacks and keeping his distance.
Yeah.
While continuously looking it in the eye. So he's like trying his best not to disrespect it while also not losing its respect. I love
how they characterize the griffin by having him like, this is like a very Japanese culture thing, I think, of
school
like
bully.
You get bullied in school by having someone give you money and telling you to go buy them like a soda or like go buy me a drink.
I was wondering the same thing because I'm like, that's a
very Japanese culture thing.
That's a considerate bully griffin. Like it gave him money. It's very funny that it stretches out its arm and hands him yen. But also the fact that it gave him money is like, I'm surprised bullies in Japan don't just make you go buy.
I think the bullies will often just make you go buy using your money. I've seen that in anime a ton. I know. But
yeah, I guess the griffin is like a nicer bully, I suppose,
or something. But, you're supposed to be on equal terms, respect with him, or something. I don't know. It's goofy shit.
Yeah, it's all goofy shit. Anyway, he resolves that, and then the kid's like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. My magic sucks, and
I love this scene because it's just Mash being like, oh, what is Mash going to say to this kid to cheer him up? And he's just like, well, fake it till you make it. Like,
Mash is just really not like that inspiring of a protagonist, and it's fucking hysterical because any pivotal moment in the series where it's up to him to say the inspiring or determined thing,
save this child.
Yeah, he just says, oh, that's pretty weird kind of comment. He reacts like a normal dude would react in that situation. He's just very chill about everything. He's
the straight man personality wise in most situations, but he's also the wild joke gag character in his sort of physicality and how he solves problems. It's a great dynamic.
It's so funny. And basically, the kid says, "Hey, I'm not cut out for this, but you're amazing, Mash." And Mash just says, "Fake it till you make it."
Yep.
It's like, okay, thanks for that, Mash. Final test is that they have to steal this dragon's egg. The dragon lands immediately, of course, and is about to burn the little kid and his jerk teacher with a blast of fire. Mash, of course, just inhales and
Just does the Superman cold breath, which
exactly.
is a great spread I grabbed here.
Blows kind of a jet cannon of air with his mouth and dissipates all the fire, and just goes and kicks the dragon in the face and knocks it out.
Yep.
And I thought it was just a cute highlight of everything that series is about, told in one chapter.
Yes, for sure.
Interesting that it's an epilogue chapter, because I feel like this would have been like a good intro chapter. It is the concept.
Yeah, it was definitely like, I read it, and I am not up to date on Mashle. I think, like I said, I read the first 20 or 25 chapters of the show. But yeah, I was able to read this and sort of, I understand the dynamic. I didn't get all the jokes of like why his friends were being so weird about stuff, but it all just works. Like, it's a very nice little encapsulation, sort of boiled down version of what MASH is. So I thought it was a good little chapter.
You know, like every book, show, and manga and whatever, right, does a group of misfits who get together and are successful in one way or another, right? And in most of those, I find that I would hang out with those misfits because they're all relatable, and they're all like
I'd love to have lunch with like the Dan crew. Like, that would be a fun. That would be a fun lunch, or like sit down with like the Straw Hats, or
and they're all misfits, but they would all be fun to hang out with. I think the Mashle crew of misfits they're misfits for a reason.
They're like
they should.
They're I hate using this word, but they're like legit cringe. Like, if you saw them IRL, you'd be like, "That's too cringe. I don't want to hang out with that person."
It's like I would be ashamed with them going crazy in public like they are. It's like wrangling children.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious as a read, but it's like I probably couldn't keep up. This is like too much, even like if I hung out with them in real life. So I think they're misfits by the absolute definition, unlike some other shows or series where they're
like, I'm a misfit. It's like, no, these people literally do not fit in at all, and they're either not trying to or desperately trying to, and it's having the opposite effect.
They very much act like societal freaks, and so their reputation feels earned.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Anything else on Mashle? Anime season 2 is airing right now. I'm going to bring that up later.
Oh yeah, check that out, guys. I know people slept on season 1 because a lot of good shit was out that season. But
and there's a lot of good shit out this season also. So
I hope it gets attention. It's a good adaptation.
It got a decent boost from the anime, from what I understand. Not as big as normal. Talk about manga sales from what I've seen, but I also just think manga sales are just down overall, so it's kind of hard to compare. But it's also over, so it doesn't really need
it's over, so
it doesn't have to prove its existence by selling more. So
I just wanted to see more success because it's really fun.
Yeah, I think it's a great play on the sort of One Punch Man. I mean, this is the closest thing I would say to One Punch Man that you can get, of the sort of like disinterested, affected weirdo guy who solves everything with his hyper strength and is stronger than everyone no matter what, but there's still kind of creative fights going on and stuff. So
yeah, it is Saitama Goes to Hogwarts.
Mm-hmm. So. That's the best way to sell it. Cool.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out. But yeah, let's go on to the next thing.
Cool. I want to talk about SpyXFamily because I really like SpyXFamily. It seems like it should be too mainstream and too light for me. And I think the way I see a lot of people talk about it, pass it off like that, I think SpyXFamily's writing is exceptional. I think it doesn't always present a chapter that is meant to do a lot of good character building or good storytelling. But when it does, I think it's awesome. And I think this chapter was really, really good. So we have the school kids, of course, Anya and Damien, everyone. They have taken their tests in the last chapter, and we're getting the results now. And remember, these results will give them either a Stella star for being like, I'd say the top 2 or the top 3, or if you like rank in the bottom some percent, you get a Tonitrus Bolt, which is like, Anya, I think, has like 2 stars and 2 bolts right now, or 1 bolt, 1 star. I don't remember. She has an equal number of stars and bolts, and
I knew that would fucking happen as soon as they mentioned it. She's gonna get like
she'll
the
have
same
6 and
number
6 because
of-
if you get, I think it's 7 stars, you're like super scholar, and if you get 7 bolts, you're like kicked out of school. She's gonna get to 6 and 6, and then she'll get a star.
That's so. It's just too funny not to go that route. Right?
For sure.
It's
for
like
sure.
straddling the line between excellent genius and terrible student. Where she's gonna be.
The idiot savant is Anya is
Idiot
literally
savant,
I mean, she's one of the best. We talk almost every week about how much we love that character archetype, and Anya is one of the best ones. She comes in second place in the like not foreign language, but like classical language or something like that. So she gets a Stella Star for her first place in classical language, and then she is in the bottom % of math, and she gets a Diamond Bolt. So the tests come out, and the facial expressions are so good.
I haven't read this yet, but goddamn, that is a work of art right there.
It's so good, yeah. There's a lot of other good faces I didn't include in here, but and this is Lloyd being told that she got a bolt and a bolt and a star. So. He gets told it's a wonderful job. Here's the actual interesting good part of this chapter, which is that Damien Desmond, right, who is the classmate of Anya, whose father is the sort of crux of the whole operation that Lloyd is running, right? His dad is some government official that essentially the whole plan. Lloyd's whole plan in here is to have Anya get in and befriend Damien or be a scholar so that he can, go and get closer to the Desmond father and all this stuff. But the cool stuff in this chapter is that we meet Damien Desmond's older brother, who I think we have heard talk about before. His name is Demetrius Desmond. And he is the sort of like star older brother. Like Damien kind of plays himself up to be smarter than he is and better than he is. He's kind of, I would say, like a average, maybe middle average student, right? He is not the star student that his parents want him to be, and that's kind of a lot of what drives his character. And we learn a lot more about what drives his character because we have this sort of perfect older brother who he's looked up to and compared to endlessly. So it's like, again, it's like, oh, I heard he got 6 Stella Stars just from this term's final. So Demetrius Desmond, his older brother, is like, top of the class. I think he's like, what is it? I think Anya and him, are in like 4th grade or 3rd grade. They're like young, right? They're like 8. And I think Demetrius Desmond is like upper middle school. He's like 14 or 15, maybe something like that. So, but yeah, it's funny. Like Anya tries to read his mind, and she's just like, "There's nothing in there. There's nothing at all." But Damon tries to contact him or tries to talk to his older brother, and is like, "Hey, like, I know that." He kind of says like, "Hey, like, I know that Dad likes you more. Like, have you talked to him? Like, can you tell him that I exist? That that I'm around? Can he pay attention to me?" I really like the characterization of this chapter of Damien because we've seen it before, and I think this is just a good expansion on it of Damien being sort of desperate for approval by his father and acceptance by his mother, and for them to pay attention to him, which is like just very classic kind of all kids want and need this attention, right? So not getting it definitely affects them. It affects him even worse when his older brother got a lot more affection. He mentions, Damien mentions that Demetrius, his dad used to sit with him, all the time and study and force him to study. And Damien saw that as like, I'm jealous of that because Dad is spending time with you and studying with you and forcing you to learn and stuff. I think we're probably going to learn that is not as positive a situation as Damien makes it out to be. I think that's going to be, I think Demetrius probably resents his dad for forcing him to be so smart or whatever. But again, it's just, it's one of those things where
it's clear from that page alone, right? That he's a little bit, he is just a successor, a bred and groomed successor who doesn't understand people, right?
Yeah,
and
he's very sort of
like
disinterested.
The family created a robot, which is the brother that can that
gets good grades, but probably can't do much else. I think you're calling out a good point because I do think that Damien's, I don't want to necessarily say Damien's purpose in the story, but I do think that he's going to be more of a peace creator or a negotiator or a middleman, however you want to put it, than almost anybody else. And I think that will sort of be his winningness, will be the fact that Damien is the sort of crux to peace. It's not really Anya or Lloyd, although it is them in a way, and it is his dad in a way. I think that Damien is kind of more the crux of all that. But yeah, see here it says like,
he's a really good character. Damien is
yeah,
because he's a good kid, even though he comes off as a snotty brat. It's like his upbringing, you know.
Yeah. And he doesn't really want to be a snotty brat. He wants his dad to pay attention to him, and he thinks that by being, haughty or his mom,
he's just severely neglected and never given affection, right? So it's like,
yeah,
he turned out really well for his life situation.
Yeah.
Just I think that makes him a really compelling and interesting character. I'm looking
for sure. And I mean, this
it.
is the sort of like solid, good character writing that I really like. That I think Spy Family does really, really well. It is not just this sort of fun, lighthearted series. I think when it gets into character stuff, it's amazing. I think the Spy Family has one of, if not the best chapter 1 I've ever read. I think Spy Family chapter 1 might be the best chapter 1 of any manga series I've ever read. It's awesome. It has a complete character arc for 2 characters. It does everything it needs to do. But yeah, I mean, Damien, it's interesting you bring up that he's like lacking affection, because he very clearly goes to his sort of dumb friends, his Crabble and Goyle, so to speak, to give him that affection, because they love him, and that's kind of why he has those friends. And this is all like really good, solid character writing and world building that all this stuff ties together. We're learning more about Damien. Like I said, I think Damien is a really important character in all this. So yeah, and then of course we end with a little bit of gag. But yeah, Stella Stars till Imperial Scholar 5, Nitrous Pulse till Expulsion 5. So
it's so funny. I love that. I just love what the author's going for here. I mean, it's like, it's not a twist. We know what's going to happen. It's just funny watching this train wreck continue.
It's great, and I'm a huge fan of Spy Family. It's hard because it's every 2 weeks, so it's hard to like remember it and be like excited for it. I think when a series is published less often, it's harder to be like, I'm so excited because it's continually here and it's so, its momentum is gone. But I enjoy Spy Family every week. I think it's great. I thought this chapter was excellent. Yeah, so it's good. Definitely
I think the bi-weekly certainly works better for Spy Family than it does for something like Monster 8, which relies on like where the last year of content is happening in like 20 minutes kind of a thing,
And Kaiju 8 is unfortunate. We'll talk a little bit about it because it comes up in the news after this, so we'll talk about it. But yeah, cool. I mean, that's all I got for Spy Family. So anything you want to add, Gautam, are we good?
Nope, we're good.
Cool. I was going to go back to the first. That's not what I want to do. Let's go back here. Let's do news real quick. There we go. A couple of items of news. Some interesting things happened. We got an announcement. Kizumonogatari. This is the Bakemonogatari prequel movie series. Originally, it's 3 movies. There's a supercut movie coming to American theaters in April. We are absolutely going to see that, Gautam.
Oh, tight. Dude, we should also go watch the Gurren movie when it comes up.
Yes, which I think is also coming soon. Maybe February for that? That might have been Japan time. It's coming this year. But yeah, there's... the more I think about it, the more I think Bakemonogatari might be my favorite anime series of all time. And these movies are gorgeous. Like, absolutely amazing. I'm excited to see what they do with the supercut, because each of the movies is only about... It's like maybe 70 to 80 minutes each, so I assume they're going to kind of cut
like
things together.
sequel movies or recap movies? Should I watch the series before I watch them?
No. So technically, Kizumonogatari is sequentially the first event that happens in the Bakemonogatari series. So this is the story. The book is originally called Koyomi Vamp. So this is the impetus of how everything started, of how Koyomi, the main character, Araragi, becomes a vampire. So this is the start of the entire series. So you don't need you don't need to know anything else about the story to go in and see it.
Oh, okay, got it. I thought he was a thrall to that blonde girl.
Yes, he is.
Or like a lesser vampire.
Yeah, she makes him. Yeah, pretty much. The movie explains it, but yeah, he is not like a full vampire like she is. He is a partial vampire, but yeah, it's all made a little bit more clear, and it has to do with how powerful she is at the time and how strong her blood is, and it's not that complicated, but there's a little bit more going on than just vampire and thrall in a classical sense.
I guess we'll see in April.
Yeah, we will, because these are gorgeous movies. And from what I've heard, they've been sort of, I don't know if they've created new scenes necessarily, but I've heard that they've like really reshuffled and retooled this to be really good. This, I think, came out in Japan maybe like this week or next week. I've been seeing some reviews and stuff for it, and the reception seems really good. And I think the original 3 movies are all really great. So yeah, we'll check that out. What else we got? Yomi no Tsugai crosses 2.3 million copies with 6 volumes. This is wild. This is better than nearly everything in Jump except for like One Piece, My Hero, and Jujutsu Kaisen, to show you like how big this is. And for a comparison, something else I saw that also has 6 volumes is Kindergarten Wars, which we were talking about earlier. Kindergarten Wars is a smash hit for Jump Plus. They've been really pushing it. It's really good. They had a huge display at Jump Fiesta. It is their new biggest hit. It's their new Spy Family, essentially. It's the sort of story kind of for the whole family, although it's maybe a little too violent for that. But that also has 6 volumes. That's considered a huge hit. That has 1 million. So Yomi no Tsugai is more than doubling those sales. I have to call it the series every time I see it. It's my favorites. It's massively popular in Japan. Nobody fucking knows about it here. So
yeah. That's a branding problem, I think, more than anything.
Well, and there's also not a place to officially read it. So it's also a service problem, like we were talking about. Where am I supposed to go to read Yomi no Tsugai? It is on the Square Enix app, which is, my God, is that maybe the worst app. And I think it's like months late. Like we should be, I think chapter 26 should be coming in January. And I am sure that if I went on the Square Enix app right now and checked it out, they're probably on chapter like 22 or something. So, yeah.
It's also kind of impossible to recommend to people because you either have to say Yomi no Tsugai, which is unrelatable to anyone outside of people already reading manga, or you have to say Daemons of the Shadow Realm. I mean, you'll never catch me saying that. Yeah.
All right. What else we got? Monster, not Monster. Why am I missing the author of that? The Urasawa series, which is the older German murder mystery type thing. This is
and not Monster number 8.
And not Monster number 8. No, this is Monster, which is a short story written by Oda, the author of One Piece, back in probably like 93, 94, I think was when this came out, maybe a little earlier. That is getting a release on Netflix. The anime for that is coming out, what did I say? 21st of January. So yeah, about 10 days from when we're recording this. That is pretty hype because I think we've both read this short story, right? Monster. This is the one with the dragon in it. It's a good little story. Oda's always been a great storyteller. When I read his short stories, I was expecting him to be sort of like, oh, he won't be as good, but it's like, no, this guy's always gotten how to tell stories. Monster's a fun one. It has kind of a proto Zoro in it. A lot of people like to say a character that's kind of similar to Zoro, but maybe not.
The dude has always just been a genius, is what I realized.
He's just always been a good storyteller, and he's really only gotten better. So pretty excited to see that, to be honest. I think it's just a short little, I think it's only going to be like a 1 episode, like 25-minute things, but yeah.
That'll be cool, though. Yeah.
Cool. So, okay, speaking more on publications, in mid-February, so about a month from now, Shogakukan is going to launch a female-oriented manga vault called Friend Komi Like. That vault is going to have series from the Shogakukan shoujo manga prints. There's a bunch of them. There's like 9 or 10 of them here. To commemorate the opening of the site campaign where you can get 2,000 points to read 50 manga chapters if you pre-register has kicked off. This
nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there's some issues with this. Point systems for reading manga suck. Nobody likes those. Stop doing it. But I do think this is a good step in providing a service that does not exist. Shoujo manga are much harder to read. They are much less fan translated over here. They are much harder to get physical print in books because they generally sell a little bit less than the shonen and seinen stuff. I think I'm happy and proud. I think this is a good step towards potentially getting some of these things maybe over here in the West licensed, or getting our own special female focused shoujo manga app or something like that. So good to see. I wanted to call it out just because even though it's going to use a point system, which is not great, I do think it's good that all of these shoujo manga are getting a place to be read. I think that is great.
I think that's a good idea too. Though I don't think it'll be nearly as successful as the shonen app, because I think shoujo as a genre, courtship and romance are so culturally different between countries that it's harder to relate to that than it is to dudes punching each other, where it's universal. I
had never thought about that. let's hang a sign on that. I want to talk about that later at some point because I had
Sure.
it had not really occurred to me that romance works really differently in Japan and here, and maybe that's why these romances aren't popular. But I think it's a really interesting topic. I think we should talk about it later because I do like that idea.
Yeah, let's do that.
But let's move on. So in 2023, the best Volume 1 sales, basically the best new published manga in 2023 was Kindergarten Wars, 185,000 copies of Volume 1. So yeah, Kindergarten Wars, like I said, new explosive hit. Best Volume 1 sales, not surprising. Jump or Jump Plus is pretty consistent, I think, in probably winning those most years. I think the year before it was probably Akane would have been the best new thing, or maybe even Ruri Dragon. My Ruri Dragon Volume 1 might have sold more than Akane, because that really blew up. But
you know what, Bruce? Like, I read Kindergarten Wars Chapter 1 and then Chapter 2, and then I'm like, I like this, and it's a lot of fun. But I think this is going to be one of these niche things that
I remember we talked about it. I think
yeah.
maybe even on the podcast when it came out of like, you were like, I don't know how long this can last. I get the joke. And how do you feel now looking back on that?
It is still primarily, it feels like a one joke manga.
Oh, really? I don't think
it leans on the one joke a lot.
It will use the one joke, but it's got so much more depth behind it.
But like Mashle, I think the joke is just good enough to be used over and over again. Like,
well, and
it's not a complaint that this is a one joke manga. It depends on how creatively the author can keep using the joke, and it turns out pretty well.
Yeah, well, and also like every time you get a flashback in Kindergarten Wars, it's like gut-wrenchingly sad and emotionally involved, and like the characters are great. Like I think Kindergarten Wars is doing all of these things that SpyXFamily, where people kind of wrote it off as, oh yeah, it's this lighthearted kind of actiony rom-com. You know, it's not really character focused, but it's like no, but when they do character stuff, it's really good. I feel like SpyXFamily, the same thing, where it's like, oh yeah, it's this goofy action thing where, you know, she's looking for romance and that's the joke. But then like it goes into like a flashback or a character thing, and the writing is like really good. Like I think this is a really solid series, and I'm having I don't know if you read the chapter from, it was today or yesterday. They're doing Luke's backstory. He was like a cop in Britain.
Yeah.
And it's like really good stuff. It's like how he met his wife, and his wife got him into shoujo manga, and that's like his like big character personality trait in the modern world. So yeah, the series is great. I think it deserves all the sales and praise it gets.
I thought like the serious moments were just okay until we got to the fish scooper.
Mm-hmm. That
siblings.
definitely, there's a big step up there, I think.
And then everything past that, that and everything past that has been really good.
For sure. We got an anime announcement. We are getting more Doro Hey Doro. We're getting a second season or more. That was a CGI anime on Netflix. I think it was Studio Orange who did that. I don't remember though. Might have been somebody else. But yeah, Doro Hey Doro is a pretty popular series. Q Hayashida is the author there. Pretty excited to see more of it.
It's kind of surprising. Yeah, but good to see.
My next thing, I just have a line that says Heart Gear is back. Do we care? Is this good? Did you ever read Heart Gear whenever it stopped being published about 2 years ago? Yeah,
I don't even know what that is. I don't think I've heard of that. Okay.
It's some series that I think was on Jump Plus that just went on hiatus and it came back. I think it had like 40 or 50 chapters and it came back. I saw a lot of people talking about it. I don't know anything about it. So, hey, if you know anything about Heart Gear or you're reading it and excited for it to come back, get in the comments. Let us know about it.
Bro, I was reading manga back then. I don't know how I didn't hear about it.
I remember seeing it and I don't know why it never captured me. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let us know. Is it good?
We got a couple of known creators doing new series. So we have the Insomniacs After School creator Makoto Ojiro is starting a new web series in Big Comic Spirits. Issue 10, I think it's coming out first week of February. The manga will be created in collaboration with a super popular, still secret comedian. I was wondering about that. I really like Insomniacs After School. I didn't think it was very funny. Really?
Yeah, it
it's cute.
Yeah, it wasn't funny, but
it wasn't funny. So I'm wondering how different this will be. If this will be another sort of cute, comfy romance type thing, or if it's could be a totally different angle with the secret comedian that they're working with.
I hope I hope it's not too funny. As weird as that is to say, like I can get my comedy beats elsewhere. I thought Insomniacs After School was kind of just a brilliant story about
great for what
people.
It was.
Yeah, exactly.
Comfy, like melancholy at times, little romance. I'm curious because I think it's a really good author. Like, I really did enjoy Insomniacs After School. In the end, maybe it was a little rushed, but
yeah,
I'm interested to see if they have the chops to flex into comedy like this, and if that's what they're doing. I don't know. Maybe it's a comedy guy trying to do something serious. That happens. Robin Williams did serious movies, so
yeah. I'm just like, if they were going to do something serious, I'm not sure if they would have branded it as a super popular comedian.
that is, yeah, I kind of agree with that. The announcement, or at least the translation of the announcement that I read, makes it seem like it's some secret comedian that, it's going to be a comedy thing because there's a secret comedian involved. But
Well, I think either way, we don't know any Japanese comedians, right? Or I don't at least.
not by name,
Yeah.
or by performance or anything. But yeah, another new thing that we're getting is Himoto Umaru-chan, which is the if you Google Umaru-chan, you will have seen this if you watch anime or in anime meme spheres. A little
and the Demolition D video that every AniTuber based all of their channels off of.
Yeah, that's a good point. Creator Sankaku Head is starting a new rural slice of life manga series tentatively titled Boku no Manamusume in Weekly Big Comic Spirits issue 12, which is out February 19th. So, yeah, Himoto Umaru-chan is like a memeable cultural impact series, I would say, especially the anime. So curious to see what this author brings us. We'll have to see.
I wonder if they can capture the popularity of Umaru-chan. At least in the West, I know the discourse is a lot of people loved it, and a lot of people absolutely hated it because it was so popular. And Umaru is a terrible person. It's
kind of like a selfish little gremlin child, which is kind of the whole point.
She's the worst, and her brother is an enabler. So it's like it's just a series of two idiots, I guess.
Yeah.
But it is divisive, right? Because there is people who love it, and there are people who hate it because people love it. So it's like
it is definitely one of those things. It's less in the mainstream now, but I don't know how many.
It was this way, yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Umaru-chan was really big, and it was like there was a time where you just get on, anime Twitter, and it's like every meme is just Umaru-chan, like every single one, or like a reskin, a remix of it. So
yeah, but the fact that it's divisive made it popular, right?
That is also true.
Making something as divisive. It's the same reason Rent a Girlfriend is also incredibly popular. It's divisive. People like talking about it.
But yeah.
I don't even know if that's true anymore. I don't know if that's why people are on board.
It's definitely. I think beautiful girls on the covers and promotional images definitely grabs a lot of people's attention for Rent a Girlfriend. But yeah, anyways, last piece of news we'll go over here. The Kaiju 8 B-side manga dropped. Did you happen to read that, Gautam? The side story thing?
I am not remotely interested.
I am also not, and I did read chapter 1. It was fine. It was not. This is, I believe, an adaptation of a side light novel that was written, or a side story that was written. So it's maybe a limited run type thing. It was not better enough than our current situation with Kaiju 8 to change my mind on anything. It was sort of like, yep, that's a flashback about this one commander guy. It sure is. Cool.
Is that the shit poster commander?
I think so. Yeah. But he was like the sword, the dual sword guy.
Yeah, he was cool too, I guess. Yeah.
I don't remember if that's the same person or not, but it's
no. The other guy had the monster eyes. Is the guy I'm talking about.
Okay, no, this is the dual sword guy who's like, it was basically, the whole chapter is basically like, haha, why do you use swords? We have guns. Guns are way better. And then the Mina Ashiro girl is like, I am a sniper, but I need someone who uses melee weapons on my team. And he's like, that makes me feel special. That's the chapter. I spoiled it for you. It's fine.
Okay.
If you're really into Kaiju 8, go read it. I might check out chapter 2 or 3, but again, I don't think it's significantly better enough than what we've gotten to be worth too much of my time. So
I think I would, if I was in that universe, I'd also be one of the haters, because why use swords? That's insane. You're fighting giant monsters.
Sure. Cool. That's it for manga and manga news. Let's talk about one more thing. I think I'm going first. Yes. I want to talk about, this is actually not something I did this week. This is something that I experienced and read while I was on my trip to Japan, which I talked about last week. This is Golden Kamui by Satoru Noda. I read the entirety of this while I was in Japan and back. This is a really special series. And I can see this sold incredibly well. I know that some of our maybe first 6 months of episodes or so had some of its final volumes appearing like at the number one spot, Golden Kamui. There's a live action movie that I think either just premiered or is coming really soon in Japan. This is an exceptional series. This is one of those series. The best way I can talk about it is it's one of those things like Full Metal Alchemist or One Piece where it's so good at so many different things. It's so good at building its world, at its having weird, funny, interesting characters, at visual design. Its art is great. The twists and turns the story goes through, the plot goes through, the reveals. It's funny. Did I say that? Like, this is legitimately one of the funniest sort of shonen seinen things I've ever read. It's just so good at everything that it's this complete package series. Beginning to end, I loved it. It's amazing. There's a proclivity for bears. If you just like bears, I can suggest you read this. This is funny, and I almost brought it this week just so I could talk about it. Satoru Noda's new series, Dogs Red, the most recent chapter ends, and there's a bear in it, and I was like, I'm so glad I read Golden Kamui because I know exactly what this bear is fucking up to, and what this guy knows about bears. There's just a fuck ton about bears. If you've ever read Golden Kamui, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's just the whole package, and it's so rare to find a series that's like this. You know, we talk about even stuff like SpyXFamily being good at, you know, it's funny and it has good character stuff, or Kindergarten Wars or whatever, but there's so few series that are everything, that are, I mean, this is dramatic and it's violent and it has comedy and it has goofiness. There's also more. It also completely does away. There is like hardly any like female ecchi erotic anything in this series, and there's a fuck ton of like naked guys in this, like not fully naked, usually, you know, like half naked or exposed or whatever, but like if you're into hot muscular northern Hokkaido men, like there's a ton of guy ecchi in this, or maybe it's for girls so it's girl ecchi. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but like,
yeah, that's a good point. I don't know.
It is the opposite of normal revealed girl ecchi, right? This is like guys will get naked for no reason and, you know, wrestle with each other or whatever. There's like a lot of that in here, which feels appropriately subversive and interesting and fun. It's also just like fun to read. Like, it's not a, you know, like I am a regular cis white male and I still had fun reading it. So it's just everything. I cannot recommend this enough. Go read Golden Kamui. It's awesome.
Well, cool. I'm up next, huh?
Yep. And this is like time number 4 or 5 you brought this, but I'll put the patch highlights up on the screen.
If it's the only thing I do, that's the only thing. Right.
That's true.
I've been degenerately playing TFT. Mm-hmm. Enough said. I pitched TFT enough. That's all I've been doing is just playing a degenerate amount of TFT.
Cool. And there's a new patch out, right? So is it?
True. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm figuring it out right now.
Yeah, again, I just put the patch on the screen. So
yeah, the patch on the screen.
Cool. I guess that's it then, unless there's anything else.
Not on my end.
Cool. Let's get out of here then. Hey, thank you everyone for listening or watching. Hey, don't forget, if you're watching us, you can also listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all those podcast places. And if you're listening, you can check out, if you want to see the manga we're talking about on screen, you can check us out on YouTube. We are the WGB Weekly Manga Podcast channel. Don't forget to leave us feedback on those locations, comments, upvote, thumbs up, any positive reinforcement you can. Please go do that. We really appreciate comments, of course. Check out Twitter and Patreon, which link in the description. Yeah, and I think that's it. Adios, everybody.
See you later.
Thank you for being with us again, and don't forget to read more manga.
Dude, speaking of Kaiju 8, doing like 20 minutes in story It's like a year.
I'm
It's like Hunter x Hunter is that on crack. There's one part of Hunter x Hunter that took like 3 years, and it happened in like 12 seconds.
Okay, wait. Did it take 3 years because there were only like 2 chapters a year, or was it legitimately like 120 chapters to get through?
It was Togashi. It was both. So it was Togashi taking a long time, and
The worst
it was a
of
long
both
arc.
things.